Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum. I did a 1-minute short, and I've been posting on socials, but I could probably use a distraction today, so I'm going to do a hospital update. I'm going to be talking about why I was in the hospital, the things that happened while I was there, talk about a couple movies I got to finally watch, give my thoughts on those, and talk about some book stuff. And I just have to say this because this is probably one of the most important parts about being home is that I can finally have coffee again. I love coffee. Y'all ever had this kind? I know before everybody starts being like angrily typing in the comments, I know it doesn't have as much caffeine, but it's delicious. And I have tried 1,000 times to make my own coffee and make it taste as good as like something like this or something from Starbucks. And it just doesn't work. And Starbucks is expensive. I can get a carton of this for like $5 and it'll last me for 2 days. That's pretty good. Don't worry, I'm drinking water too. I have to have coffee because I miss it. So, all right. So, I'll just give this warning, right? Because sometimes men are like really weird about the fact that women's bodies do things, even though their bodies do weirder things like than ours like exist. I am going to have to reference my cycle. So if you're queasy or weird or childish about that, just check out now. Because I have to bring that up because it's relevant to what happened to me while I was in the hospital. So we'll start there. About a year ago, I started having really severe cramping when I was on my cycle. Now, most of the time, I think the general consensus is it really sucks being a woman sometimes. And so you just think, well, yeah, that's normal. And you don't think anything of it. Well, after it continued for months and months and months, and the pain was getting really intolerable, I actually started to wonder if I had endometriosis, which the statistics for women who have endometriosis is appalling. And there's no cure for it. There's very little that can be done other than treating the pain and the symptoms that come along with it. So I finally, a couple months back, went to my OB and was like, hey, I think this is what's going on. So I get the whatever done. And she's like, no, actually, like you don't have it. And I'm like, well, what the fuck? Because this is painful. Like I can't take care of my kid. I can't go to work. Like, what's the deal? And she told me, she said, well, you do have really tiny cysts, one on each ovary, but even she seems surprised. Also, my cat just came in the room and he's being very needy because I've been gone for 5 days. So he may cause a ruckus. We'll see. But she told me that I had one on each ovary. And she said that it did kind of surprise her that the pain level would be that bad given how small they are, because when they're that small, they won't even do surgery on them. They just usually go away on their own. And I was like, I don't know. I've been having this pain for like a year. She's like, okay, well, we can try to do some birth control options. Well, the problem is I'm a chronic migraine sufferer. So I can't take, I can take estrogen, but the problem is it typically makes my headaches really bad. And I sort of just got them under control. So I didn't want to go that route. So I kind of put it off. Well, this past week, the pain reached a level that I felt meant something was seriously wrong. This past Thursday, I went to work. I took my heating pad with me because I was starting to feel some aches, and I was like, oh, it's probably going to get bad. I'm nervous. I take everything you can imagine. I've taken anti-inflammatories to try to help. I've taken, ibuprofen, Aleve. Tylenol is a joke. Don't even come at me with no Tylenol. Nothing I was taking was working. And so I just took my heating pad to work on Thursday, and I was like, I'll just have to deal with it. So by the time I got home Thursday, the pain was so intense. I felt like I couldn't move. I'm a single mom. Most of you know that. And I have a small child. My kid is only 5 years old. He does not understand. Mom can't mom right now. So that was really difficult. As the pain got worse and worse and worse, and nothing was helping, including the heating pad, I was like, what do I do with this? And so I came up with one of two things that it could be. It could have been a ruptured cyst, because those can be quite painful, especially if they get bigger. And then my other thought was appendicitis because the pain was in my lower right quadrant. I'm like, my abdomen. And I had told my best friend, I was like, look, if it's not better by tomorrow, I'm going to take my son to school and then I'm going to go to the ER. And my reasoning behind that, for those of you questioning the concept of going to an ER for every little thing, which Angel does not do. Angel hasn't been to the ER since she was 19. Not for myself. I've been for my son once. And also, while we're on the subject, don't let people make you feel shitty about medical decisions you make for yourself. I hear people lecture people all the time about how you don't need to go to the doctor for that. You don't need to go to the ER. You do whatever feels right for you. Nobody knows your body the way you do. And if you feel like you need to be seen, and like, do whatever you need to do. And my advice, especially given what I'm going to tell as this video goes on, is don't put it off. If you feel like something is wrong with your body, then you need to go be seen. It doesn't matter what anybody says. Doesn't matter that you're a woman and society tells you that there's nothing wrong with you. Stop complaining. Just calm down. Like, just keep those things in mind. When it comes to your health, it's better to overreact than to underreact and it be something serious that you didn't catch in time. I'm just going to leave that note there. So I decided, I was like, if the pain is worse on Friday morning, I'll go to the ER. And my thought process behind that, not that I owe it, but I'll give it anyway, is because if it was a ruptured cyst or if it was appendicitis, I would already be in a place that could take care of anything I needed. Versus if I go to my OB, if I go to a regular doctor, it's going to be this whole ass process. And meanwhile, I'm going to be in pain and agony for who knows how long. So I didn't think that was the best decision. So I went to the ER and, I ended up going to the ER because Friday morning I woke up and the pain that was just really bad in the lower right was now shooting across my stomach, which, if you know, is like textbook appendicitis. So I'm like, all right, well, guess I'm getting my appendix out. So I make arrangements for my little to be picked up and then for his dad to take him for the weekend and stuff, because it was my weekend, but he obviously had to help. And so I got to, and fun fact, I forgot my wallet in my partner's car the day before because we worked together and we'd gone to lunch and I took my wallet and I left it. So everything in her car is black and I just didn't see it. So we had already realized that I left it in her car, and I was like, all right, so I got to go to the ER. I'm going to have my wallet, which I felt horrible about because then of course she has to like do her routine with her kids and then like not make it to work on time because she had to bring me my wallet. But so which was no problem for her at all. She just very sweet was like, we're a team. I'll on my way as soon as I get the little ones off to school. I'm like, okay. So I get to the ER around 8:00. She's there within a couple minutes, and we meet, we find each other, and she gives me my wallet, and she's like, well, I'll just wait with you for a few minutes, and which honestly, like, not to be cheesy, but like seeing her made me feel like, I just felt like I feel such a peace around her in general. Like, I know that it was only for a short period of time that we saw each other that morning, but I think it really did kind of set my peace for the rest of the day, because as you're about to learn, it took a lot of patience to deal with this experience in the hospital. So anyway, but as soon as we walked in, they went ahead and called me to start the process of whatever, get my blood pressure, blah, blah, blah. And so she was like, okay, well, I'll go ahead and go then if they're going to go ahead and call you back. Well, they ended up not calling me back completely. They did that. Then I went and waited for over an hour. Then they triaged me and I have like bruises and band-aids all over my arms, you guys. Which actually isn't why I'm wearing this. I'm wearing this just because it's comfortable, but I do have marks all over my body from being in the hospital, as well as on my psyche. And so I waited, I went to the triage after about an hour. I went to triage where they did my blood work, my urine sample, blah, 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 blah. I had the very unfortunate event of having to tell the man that was doing all my samples, hey, sorry, I'm on my period. Don't let the blood freak you out because it's in my urine, right? And so anyway, so I said, okay, fine. So I'm like sitting and I'm like, okay, I'll get my book out, which I'll get to in a minute. And I started thinking I'd have some time to read, but then they called me and I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, I'm in so much pain. I'm I'm leaning over in the chair and I'm like, like trying to breathe through it. It was so bad. And I don't normally consider myself to have a really high pain tolerance, but I think I kind of do. I think my pain tolerance is not super low. I think it's kind of high. And so, normally, my cramping and stuff before things got bad was probably like, like a 4 out of 10, like pretty uncomfortable, but I could manage. And something would help it if I took some meds or whatever. This was like a fucking 8 or 9. Like it was unbearable. And so they call me back and I'm like, yes. And then I see that there's like beds in the hallway. Keeping in mind, I don't go to hospitals. Like the only other time I've been in a hospital is when I had my son, and they had overflow because they were so busy. So I literally was sitting in a bed in the middle of the hallway. Um, I'll kind of speed through this part. So the urine came back that I had a UTI, and I'm not a medical professional, but I did tell the medical professional that that wasn't incorrect. That wasn't correct. I was like, that's not right. I was like, because I thought she was trying to tell me, like that's what's wrong with you. And I worry as a woman going into healthcare. And if you're a female, if you are a women's ally, which I shouldn't even have to say, but I think the people watching this will know what I mean. If you're close to women, if you help, stand up for women, and you'll know this is a thing. In the medical world, women are not taken seriously when they have concerns about their health. And so I didn't want to tell them that I was on my cycle because I thought, oh my fucking God, they're going to send me home, be like, girl, take some leave and take a nap. Like I knew that's what was going to happen. So when they came back and were like, oh, you have a UTI, I was like, no, bitch. I was like, this is not, I've had those before. That's not what this is. And she was like, well, it may not be the only thing wrong, but your culture did come back that you had one. And I was like, no, the fuck, I don't. Like, I know the symptoms. Anyway, I digress. So we moved past that. I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. So they want to do a CT scan because at this point we're guessing it's probably appendicitis. When the nurse came or the doctor came and pushed on me, I could barely handle her pushing on me. It hurt so bad. At the time I was by myself and I thought I was going to just be driving myself home. They couldn't give me anything good for pain. So they just gave me tramadol, which is an NSAID, which did nothing. I eat NSAIDs for breakfast at this point in my life. I'm in my 30s. Come on. So coffee sip. So I was like, well, I mean, I'll try it. I'll take whatever. Like, honestly, anything that might take the edge off. And it did take a little bit of the edge off, but the pain was still pretty prevalent. It brought it down from about an 8 or a 9 to probably like a 5. So it was much better. But it still was, at that point, I was a little overwhelmed. So I was already starting to feel a little like panicky. I don't have a lot of experience having to go take care of medical things. So it was a little nerve wracking. And again, I was there by myself, which was fine. I'll get to that in a minute. But so anyway, so then they were like, okay, we're going to do a CT scan. Well, I've never had a scan of anything in my life. And I'm like, is that the closed one? I'm like freaking out because I'm very claustrophobic and I'm also afraid of the dark. And I don't know what MRIs are like, but I was very worried that that's what she was saying. She's like, no, CT scan's the open one. You'll be fine. I was like, okay. So I go do my CT scan. Fast forward a little bit from there. The doctor comes back. Appendix looks great. There's no signs of any ruptures. I can feel the butt coming. And she says, however, which is, a professional butt. And she says, well, however, the CT scan shows that there's a mass on your spine. Probably the second most scariest thing I've ever heard from a medical standpoint, because I was precancerous for cervix cancer when I was pregnant with my son. And that was really scary because essentially it was in like a stage 3 precancer, which meant that it would absolutely turn into cancer if it wasn't taken care of. And there was all this talks about what would that mean for a pregnancy, blah, blah, blah. So this is probably the second scariest thing I've ever heard. I'm alone. At this point, it's, God, 1 in the afternoon. I've been there since 8 in the morning. I was not prepared to hear that, to say the least. And I'm in the middle of a fucking hallway surrounded by people. I couldn't even react the way I wanted to because I wanted to cry. I was scared. I was overwhelmed and I wanted to cry. And I'm not a public crier. I can't. I can happy cry in front of people. But fear, anger, sadness, I can't show that to people that I don't trust, that are not like the only people I cry in front of are my parents, my sisters, my best friends, and my partner. Like I'm not crying in front of anybody else. And so anyway, so I was very like not in a good place. So they ordered an MRI, but they were very upfront about the fact that the MRI would take hours because it's just, there's only one MRI. Is it room person? something, and it took care of the whole hospital. So not just ER, but the entire hospital. And the thing that I think I found the most frustrating with this, right, is that when this doctor tells me this, bedside manner matters. How you communicate things with people matters, right? And so one of the things that she said was she was like she didn't even attempt to say it in a comforting way. She was like, "Yeah, so we'll have to get an MRI. They're probably going to look to have to hurry up and get you surgery, like probably today." And that's what created all the panic within my heart because I was like, "What?" Like, oh my god. And so anyway, so I digress. So thankfully, she was leaving, and a much more warm doctor came up to me and talked to me after the fact and explained to me that what the mass is. The mass looks like it's wrapped around the nerve endings that control the right leg and things on the right side. Surgery is always maybe in the back of people's minds, but it's probably not something they're going to want to try because they're going to want to get a better idea of what this is first. And I'm like, okay. He says most of the tumor things like this, because they called it that multiple times, are benign. And the biggest thing is it's causing me discomfort. So if it is benign, which they'll know from a biopsy, then the biggest thing is shrinking it so that you can be more comfortable. I was like, all right, that made God, y'all, when I tell you, that made me feel so much better. I called my mom to tell her that there was a mass. And because my mom is like my number one cry in front of person, I talked to my best friend first and my partner, and I managed to get through this conversation. Well, my partner first, then my best friend. And I got through those conversations without crying, but it was really difficult. But when I got on the phone with my mom, I wanted to cry like a baby. Because it was really scary. And so I was trying to talk and I couldn't get through it. And she says, "Do you want us to come up there?" My parents live about 3 hours away. And she asked me if I wanted them to come up, and I couldn't answer. And within seconds, she goes, "We're on our way. We'll get some stuff in the car. We're on our way." I was like, okay. I didn't want to be alone anymore. Right. And so my best friend, was going to go pick up my son because that's some other stuff I'm not going to get into for this video, but she was going to go pick my son up and then come see me and bring me like my phone charger and shit that I like did think to grab because I'm thinking I'm not going to be gone that long. And anyway, so I finally get the energy to go to the bathroom. And while I'm in the bathroom, I just have this just like cry it out thing where I finally get it out. And I'm like, okay, I felt a little better after that. Sometimes you just have to cry. Like it genuinely can be therapeutic sometimes. So anyway, so my best friend comes and spends some time with me. We're waiting hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours for the MRI. Like I waited like 5 hours to get into the MRI. So by that point, my best friend had been there. My parents were there. They're kind of keeping me company and keeping me in good spirits. We're talking about some stuff. And so they finally come and get me for the MRI. We had to take my nose ring out, which is a traumatic thing for me because I had to take it out for an interview one time and I was there for 2 hours and it closed. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. So we had to do all that. And so they take me back to the MRI. Well, I'm very claustrophobic, so they had to give me some calm down juice. And they put me in. And I will say this. If you're not claustrophobic, I don't think the MRI is that horrible. Like I did have the calm down stuff. So I'm not going into this without the understanding that I obviously had something making me calm. But they put earplugs in my ears. They put headphones over that. And the headphones were playing music. So I could hear the loudness of the machine, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't warm, which made me feel less claustrophobic, which I think people who are claustrophobic will understand. There's something about feeling claustrophobic and feeling warm as feeling like a sensation of tightness, So it was cold in the room. They were very sweet, very kind. They gave me the emergency pump thing and just told me to be very still. And so I just kept my eyes closed and I just let my mind go to happy places. I did my very best to stay in happy places. And so we get through it. They say I did a good job. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, it takes them hours to process it, to get the results, to look them over. By this point, I've talked to a neurologist who's told me the same thing the previous doctor did. I'm like, all right, cool. So they're making me feel good about the fact that this isn't something that I'm going to have to be treated for cancer. I'm feeling good about that. So finally, I get ready to get a room. So I finally go up to my real room out of the fucking hall around like 4 a.m. And my best friend leaves. My mom is staying. My dad got a hotel for the night. And I mean, from there, the next few days were very frustrating. They told me they were pretty upfront on Saturday morning that they weren't going to be able to do the biopsy until Monday. Because the person, I guess the doctor that does it was out of town, which they didn't actually say until much later in the game, but whatever. I'm like, all right, fine. So we're here till fucking Monday. Great. So I'm communicating with work, giving people updates. And Sunday comes around. My pain is almost completely gone. At this point, I don't need pain meds. And they put me on, they'd been giving me morphine, which was helping me sleep through a lot of it as well. And so anyway, so Sunday comes around, my best friend texts me. She is tested positive for COVID. So she wasn't sick when she came and saw me. She didn't start getting sick until Saturday night. And so I think that's right. And so she was in my face, helping me with my nose ring. We shared a drink. Like I absolutely have COVID, right? And so I had some sinus stuff Sunday morning, but I also hadn't been taking any of my supplements, none of my sinus meds, nothing. So I actually just thought it was that. I'm like, oh, no big deal. Definitely COVID. Then my ex-husband tells me that our son has is not acting like himself. He has a fever. He sounds miserable. I'm like, oh my God. Because, she picked him up on Friday. And of course, my best friend, I'm sure, felt horrible. It's not her fault. If you, just anybody listening, if you get sick and you don't know that you're fucking sick, if there's no reason for you to know that you're sick and you get someone else sick, try really hard not to beat yourself up. It happens. And it's not your fault. And it's not like you're being careless or you don't care about other people. Things happen. And so now this was horrible timing because Sunday I had finally started feeling better. And I'm like, oh, of course, like the universe is like killing me. And so Mercury, by the way, is not in retrograde until the 23rd. So pre-retrograde is freaking me out. So I'm like, I tell them, I'm like, I need to, I probably have COVID. So they're like, oh, fun, So, but they don't test me. And so I thought that was weird. Or maybe that wasn't until Monday. No, it was Sunday. I'm just trying to get my day right. So anyway, I'm rambling. Anyway, so that comes up. What I will tell you the doctors all after that point, I met so many doctors who told me so many different things. And they kept telling me, and then they come in, like one of the things that they did. Oh, and I did test positive for COVID and my symptoms started to show a little bit. Thankfully, so far, today is Wednesday. So far, they've been pretty mild. If my best friend had not tested positive for COVID, I would never suspect that that's what I have. But I definitely tested positive. So they kept coming back with all this information. My nursing staff, by the way, was amazing. They were, amazing. My MRI people, my CT people I dealt with, the people I dealt with for my biopsies, -1, was all great. The doctors, however, were really obnoxious because they kept sending in doctors that didn't have anything to do with the biopsy who were giving me mixed signals. So multiple doctors told me that, see, I haven't had my allergy meds in days. I should probably start those back up today. Multiple doctors told me that these masks are usually benign. And then all of a sudden this other doctor comes in and it's cancer, cancer, cancer. And I'm like, bruh, I've been here for like 5 fucking days. Like, I can't handle that right now. Like, you're going to have to cut it out. Also by this point, I am like, my heart is like really struggling because I haven't been away from my son for more than like 3 or 4 days since he's been born. He's only 5. So no one, but I want to be with him, and not being able to be with him is frustrating because I don't want him to see me in the hospital bed. Now, this was a decision I made, okay, because he's young and because he genuinely will worry himself to death over me. We're very close. I didn't want him to see me like that. So I didn't do video chats where he could see me in a nightgown in a weird bed with all this machinery around me. He couldn't come up, I think mostly because he's too young. But even if he could, I didn't want him to see me like that. I'm going to talk to him about the fact that mommy was sick, but I needed to be in a different place to do that. And that was what I felt was best for him and for me in the moment. But I'm missing him like terribly at this point. And now I have COVID. So he did end up being okay. He slept for about 12 hours Sunday night. He didn't go to school Monday just in case, but he has no symptoms. He's absolutely fine. His COVID test came back negative. So I don't know if it was just he overplayed and overexerted himself, which children can do. and he just felt like crap. So anyway, so he's fine though. He does not have COVID, so I'm actually still home without him because of that reason. Because I definitely have COVID, and so I got a lot of mixed information. They came in at one point, told me they were going to transfer me to another hospital, that they weren't going to do the biopsy at this hospital. And by this point, you guys, I've been there for 4 days, and I've been so patient and so understanding and just like trying to stay in really good spirits. And I'm starting to lose that because now I'm like, I need you guys to get your shit together because you've known since Friday that I needed a biopsy. And I'm starting to lose my cool here. Coffee sip. So good. I missed it. I'm gonna go ahead and top it off actually, because I'm gonna take a bigger sip in just a moment. But yeah, so anyway, so they kept telling me all these like different things, and I'm like, okay, y'all, I don't fucking know. And my mom is answering the questions and getting information for me because that's who she is as a mom. Like, I mean, that's just, she's always been that way. She's been that for other people. And you know, we got to spend some time together, which I am very grateful for, because my mom and I do not get very much one-on-one time in person. And so we did get some of that. We got to laugh and talk and share videos, and we talked about life things. And so that part of it, I'm trying to think of, you know, the positives. It was really good. But because I got COVID, my partner couldn't come see me in the hospital. So again, she's a single parent as well, and her kids are not quite old enough to just hang out by themselves. So she couldn't come see me over the weekend. So originally the plan was for her to come see me Monday. And I was like, no, I have COVID. Like, I would feel horrible if I got you and your kids sick. So like, I made the decision, you know, that I didn't think it was best for her to come visit. I didn't want her to get sick, and I didn't want anybody else to get sick. And so anyway, so they keep telling me all these things. So Monday, late evening, and also keeping in mind too, I have COVID. They keep putting me on NPO, which I know it stands for something, but it just means you can't have food or drink of any kind, not even sips of water. So my COVID symptoms mostly were headaches, which I had stuff in my bag to take for headaches, but I couldn't take it. I couldn't drink anything. And so I felt like shit all day Sunday and most of Monday and some of Tuesday. Well, no, Sunday I got to take something, but they kept taking me on and off NPO because they didn't know when I was going to get biopsied. And so I'm like, oh my fucking God. So my headache finally starting to clear. And I'm like, we're finally waiting on hopefully like getting some answers about when we're going to be transferred. I'm going to take a moment here to talk about something positive. I had gotten this book some time ago. Oh, my bookmark's going to slide out. I had gotten this book a little while ago because it sounded like some things that I was really interested in. And it's called Those Beneath by, I'm going to butcher this, love. I'm sorry. Almedia Ryan. I'm about halfway through it. Deep within the woods, a hollowed oak tree opens into another world, the realm of the seed. Seed, S-I-D-H-E, is a type of fae. I always mispronounce it. Y'all can be mad if you want to. In an eerie subterranean labyrinth lies the kingdom of a banished clan, their tunnels filled with unimaginable threats. To survive, the clan shares their kingdom with all manners of devious creatures, and together they use their supernatural abilities to manipulate the elements and enslave weak human minds. For nearly 19 seasons, half-human Vale has been an outcast in the only home she has ever known. When her betrothal to a warring clan of bloodthirsty seed is announced, Vale learns that her fate is intertwined with the strings of a cursed harp, and she is forced to flee into the human world. Under the begrudging protection of Kellen McGrath, a farmer's son and his kind-hearted kin, Vale learns that she is much more powerful than her family allowed her to believe. As Vale and Kellen's feelings for one another grow, Vale wants nothing more than to know if their connection is real or just magic. But nothing can stay hidden forever, and soon Vale must face a difficult choice. To save the souls of those she loves, she must sacrifice herself to those beneath. So, a couple things I'm going to compare this to for anyone who may be interested in reading this. First of all, this is an indie author. Y'all know I respect my indie. They're amazing. This is really good. I am so into this story. It's really, it's beautifully written. The story is really cool. It's got some concepts around fae that I'm familiar with, some creatures I'm familiar with, including the puka, which if you're not new here, you know I call my son. And so anyway, this is so good. I'm so excited to continue to read it. I would have been finished with it had I gotten headaches multiple days while I was in the hospital. If you have ever read any of the books in the Wicked Lovely series by Melissa Marr, which if you haven't is fantastic. That's what this reminds me of, which is one of my favorite series. I own all of them, including the extended stories that she did after the series was finished. It also reminds me a little bit of some of the stuff that goes on in, oh, my back hurts. What the hell's the name of that show? I'm drawing a blank. The one with Orlando Bloom and the girl with the eyebrows. Carnival Row. I feel like there's something else it reminded me of. What's the other thing it reminds me? There's something else, but it's so well written. Very good. I'm actually going to order a copy and send it to my sister because she's going to eat this up. My partner's probably going to love this too. It's really, really well written and served as a fantastic distraction while I was in the hospital. So I highly recommend it. So anyway, so I'm starting to read to pass the time because we don't know what's going on. I keep being put on NPO. They keep taking me off, whatever. So finally, late Monday, they come in and say that there's been a misunderstanding. Which, if you're in pain and you've got COVID and you're in the hospital for multiple days, is like the last fucking thing you want to hear. And so, big coffee sip. They tell me that I'm not being transferred and that they are going to do the biopsy and then discharge me. And that sounds great. Honestly, I'm like, I need to get the fuck about this building. Like, I was so over being in the hospital and being in that bed, and it was awful. So anyway, so I all right, fine. And then he goes on to say, but because I have COVID, they're not going to prioritize my biopsy. Because I have COVID, my medical issues are just not significant enough, right? Cool. Not what you want to hear. So my mom and I are starting to lose our patience, and my mom is very much where I get my ear from. So we finally start pushing back. So yesterday, Tuesday, my mom really pushed. They had me on NPO from midnight Monday leading into the next day. So it gets to be like 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. I have COVID and I haven't had any fluids of any kind. They haven't put an IV on me. Oh, they did treat me for the UTI that I still am not sure I have. They gave me 3 days of antibiotics and an IV for that. So, I've had nothing to eat or drink for 15 hours and I have COVID. So like fluids are kind of a big deal when you're sick, which I'm sure most people know. And anyway, so that was a whole last thing. And so now, my mom is going out there and like being like, look, so finally around 3:30, 4 o'clock yesterday, they say, okay, you're next. Cool. They finally come and get me after around 5 o'clock to take me down. And I'm like, I'm just almost excited to get this done. But then as I get down there and I go back into the room, it looks like a CT scan. Then I had this weird worry that they were going to do another CT scan. They weren't going to do the right thing, but they were there to do the biopsy. So I was like, all right, cool. So they're like, I was like, are y'all going to put me to sleep for this or like what? And they're like, no, we're going to give you some stuff to calm down though, but you don't have to be asleep for it. And I'm like, I don't. Like, I was scared because if something hurts, you move. Like, it's really hard to just be like, all right, I'm frigid. That's hard. It was hard to be still in an MRI where they weren't doing anything to you. So anyway, and then the girl who did my CT scan from Friday, who was like the sweetest, was like, hey, do you remember me? And I was like, oh, I do remember you. And she was like, yeah. She's like, and now you have COVID? I said, I didn't have COVID when we interacted. She was like, okay, because I was around you without a mask. I started laughing. I was like, no. My best friend gave me COVID after that. She goes, oh, she's like, she came to support you and she gave you COVID. And we were like laughing about it. And I was like, yeah. I said, I told her I was putting out applications for a new best friend, which I tell her like weekly. So she's used to hearing that shit from me. And that was really sweet. Like she was very sweet, very, very positive energy, you know? And so there was another lady in there that they were all nice. Don't get me wrong. The doctor was nice, told me if I had any questions at any point, not to hesitate to ask. Well, I was being wrapped up in a very weird way, right? Because I have to be on my side because the mask is on my right side of lower back. And so I have to like roll on my side and they put these safety straps on you so you don't fall off the table and I think so you don't move as abruptly. You can't like stop it when they're in the middle of it. But they get my IV set up. They had to do a third IV. This is my third time getting a brand new IV. And so, they're getting my blood pressure, my finger thing and oxygen, but they've got my mask on because they've got COVID, all these things. And they're like, all right, we're going to do like an initial scan. And they give me some calming stuff and I feel it kind of take effect. And I'm like, okay, all right. And they do lidocaine on the spot to numb it. And then he stabbed me a bunch of times. Two of the times that he did though, my body jolted and he was like, does that hurt? And I was like, no, that felt like a spasm. And he goes, okay. Because again, the mass is on my nerves, it's wrapped around my nerves. And so that's, it was something, it was involuntary. I couldn't control that. The pain I just sat through. It was done in like 5 minutes. They wrapped me up. And one of the things that I was like the most excited about, I showered while I was in the hospital, you guys, but I didn't have any deodorant. My best friend was going to bring me my stuff, like my laptops and things, like I could keep myself busy, some clean pair of fucking underwear, like some deodorant, something. And because she had COVID and I didn't know for sure if I did yet, I just told her not to bring anything. So by this point, like one of the things I'm the most excited about is coming home and taking a shower in my shower. And the first thing they tell me after the biopsy is I can't get it wet for 24 hours. I was devastated. So I can't take a shower or anything until several hours from now. But anyway, so that sucked. They did. So one of the things, circling back to what I was saying about connecting my cycle to all of this. So if you're a female, you know this already. And if you're a man who educates themselves on things related to the female's body, which you should, then you'll also know this. Everything inside your body is like in crazy mode when you're on your cycle. There's a lot of inflammation. And so the reason that my pain, because I have dull aches all the time, but the reason that my pain is so severe during my cycle isn't because of cramping from my uterus. It's because everything is inflamed and it's pushing on those nerve endings that tumor is wrapped around. And so in 3 weeks, I will be dealing with that severe pain again. And so my concern, because they're making it sound like it's going to be a little while before this is completely resolved. And so my concern was, well, what do I do in 3 weeks? And the guy kind of pissed me off when he said this. He was like, oh, well, if the pain is severe and that's severe, and you just go to the ER. And I looked at him and I was like, all right, well, I can't just do that. Like, I'm a single mom. I have a 5-year-old to take care of. I have a job. I can't just go to the ER and spend exactly like I did here, 12 fucking hours because I'm in pain. And he was like, well, I'm going to give you, some pain meds after the biopsy to help with your back pain. And, but I can't just like give you pain meds. And I was like, okay. So what I'm going to do is he did give me pain meds. I don't know how many, but whatever he gave me, my ass is saving until my next cycle, because I will inevitably be in extreme excruciating pain again in a couple of weeks for a few days. Because once my cycle ended, my pain was back to that very manageable 3 to a 2 kind of dull ache, which is manageable comparatively speaking. So anyway, so I got back from the biopsy. They did save me dinner since they fucking starved me. I chugged a bunch of water. I ate some food, and then I got dressed and I finally got to leave. And it was such a good feeling. And the first thing my mom and I did when we left was, we went to Dairy Queen and I got a brookie. And if you don't know what that is, it's really amazing. It's a blizzard with Oreos and brownie, and it is so fucking good. And I got a large and I ate almost all of it. So I'm home. I don't know. So the next steps, right? So we did the biopsy. It could take up to a week to get the biopsy results. And then they have to decide how they want to treat it. Currently, the biggest hope is that it's not cancerous, because I won't be that's going to be a really hard day for me. Anytime that word is used, it's a very scary thing. So I'm really hoping that the doctors that told me that typically these are benign is right, and that this is benign, because that is a much better thing. They say that surgery is a really risky thing because it's wrapped around those nerves, and they don't want to cause me any damage where I can't use my right leg, which obviously I don't want that shit either. And so basically, the biggest thing is probably going to be using radiation to shrink it, because it is causing me so much discomfort. So so I'll probably post a quick update about that whenever I get the biopsy results. If it's cancer, I don't actually know what that looks like. I do think that they kind of gave me the impression that if it's cancerous, then surgery is going to be, the better way to go about it if they can just remove it altogether. But I'm not 100% sure, because we really didn't talk a lot about that part, because they do think these are typically not cancerous. So fingers crossed. So I wanted to talk briefly about a couple movies I did get to watch while I was in the hospital that I hadn't gotten to see yet. My lower back hurts like a bitch. I did have some expired hydrocodone from when I had my gallbladder removed a couple years ago. Don't judge me. You gotta do what you gotta do. My liver's used to my antics at this point. And so I watched Cobweb, which everybody is screaming about. Like, oh, this is gonna get overlooked, and it's such a phenomenal film. Well, I wasn't that impressed with it. A lot of people are like, oh, this is like the perfect Thanksgiving. That's my voice I use for people on the internet. This is Thanksgiving, not even the right thing. Halloween, that's the one. This is the perfect Halloween movie. There's nothing about this that even feels like Halloween other than the dead pumpkins in the yard. And they reference Halloween. If you want a real Halloween movie to watch, I would recommend Trick or Treat or Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which is all Halloween vibes. Love that one. Yeah, this didn't make me feel, this was not Halloweeny to me at all. Now, a couple of strengths. This is beautifully shot. The cinematography in this film is top notch. The acting, oh, so good. So good. The scares, I didn't really feel that uncomfortable watching this. I wasn't like, oh my God. The most uncomfortable thing was some of the themes related. As a mother, they were unsettling to me. Janice from Mean Girls is in this, and I love her. She's fantastic. The mean ass blonde guy from The Boys is in this. I think those are the only characters I recognize. The little boy, oh my God, that little boy's going far. He was phenomenal, very convincing, very well acted scenes on his part. My complaints. This is very much a Malignant Mama, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark combination story. From the looks of our bad thing and some things that kind of unfold, it unfortunately that made it not very unique for me. So I wasn't super blown away with this one. If I had to rate Cobweb, I'd probably give it like a 5 out of 10. Again, it's shot beautifully. And the acting was really great, but that's about where it ends. The story was not original. It was not very, I pretty much predicted most of the things that were going to come to pass, which I'm not going to give any spoilers. And yeah, it just left me feeling like, really, this is the one everybody's freaking out about? Anyway, so that's my quick thoughts on Cobweb. The next movie I watched is a little bit older, but I had not been able to see it yet. And it was one of the movies that I saw. I got like I'd seen clips of for the first time when I watched Shudder's 100 Scariest Moments in Horror or whatever. And that's Annihilation with Natalie Portman and Oscar Isaacs and that blonde lady. I can never think of her name. She plays like the same character in most of the stuff she's in. And then there's the other two females I've seen in some other things, but I'm drawing a blank on their names. Anyway, if you're not familiar with Annihilation, I didn't really give a description on Cobweb, but it's fine. You can look that one up. Annihilation is like what I would consider like a sci-fi horror. This weird, something hits the earth. It hits a specific lighthouse, and then it creates this dome of this shimmery stuff. And the people that go in don't come out. So this group of people go in to basically figure out what's going on. And it's got some really cool flora and fauna stuff. Very Last of Us kind of energy going on with some of these things. And it was really cool. The animals that we get to see and the themes of this are really good, really tense moments. The story was solid. I really liked, the acting. I mean, zero complaints there. I was engaged with this from start to finish. My only complaint was I didn't hate the ending. I gotta move, my back hurts. I do think my pain medicine's finally kicking in though. My expired pain meds, because I'm saving the good stuff for in a few weeks. But what I will say is I didn't hate the ending. I just thought there's something about it that just didn't wow me, but I really enjoyed this movie. I highly recommend it. It's currently streaming on Netflix. I had to rent Cobweb, but I didn't pay for Annihilation. If I did rate Annihilation, I would probably give it, I would say like a 7.5 out of 10. It was a really good film. I really liked it a lot. And then the other one that I watched illegally is Haunted Mansion, which I wasn't too excited about, not because I didn't think I would like it. I love family stuff, like cute. I know it's rated PG-13, but cutesy stuff like that, I usually really eat, like just eat up. And so, but I just, it just wasn't one that I was like, ooh, gotta watch this, gotta watch this. And my co-host Steve was like, he really liked it, but he felt it was some couple things that were missing for him that would have made it really like more, make him love it. And I, however, am on the total opposite end. So if you're not familiar, it's the Disney's Haunted Mansion. It's a, it's about this guy who suffers a loss. He gets pulled into this situation with this mansion, and all the stories unfold behind all the ghosts and what's actually going on. Really great cast in this. You've got, I cannot think of the guy's name. He plays one of the other characters in Get Out. I cannot think of his name. I'm sorry. Rosario Dawson, Owen Wilson, Danny DeVito, Tiffany Haddish, who is, I fucking love her. Are you scratching my chair? No, sir. No, sir. You can have my undivided attention in just a few minutes. I'm almost done. Okay? I love you. Who was the other? Oh, Jared Leto as the hat box ghost. Danny DeVito in this, y'all. Oh my God. Anyway, so this is a really cute movie. I thoroughly loved this. This one was an easy 9 out of 10 for me. It's not scary at all, but it's very cute and it's very emotional. Like there's some parts, especially this one part, and I had a headache when I was watching this. So the parts that made me want to cry, I was like, nope, because crying makes my headaches worse. I was like, oh my God, but it was so good. I laughed, I cried, I was like interested in the story. The characters were phenomenal. The little boy in this, again, I'm always impressed with the things that child actors and actresses can do. The little boy in this is phenomenal. The set was amazing. They had these really great nods to the ride, these moments that happen that they're like, oh, this is from the ride, which I thought was really, really good. Anyway, I really enjoyed the Haunted Mansion. It's not out yet on streaming. I watched it illegally. But it's I'm assuming that when it comes out, it'll be on Disney Plus, and I absolutely will be showing it to my kid because I thought it was just a really fun, little spooky, Halloween-y kind of. There you go. Watch that instead of Cobweb if you want Halloween energy. And yeah, so those are the movies that I watched. And then my last little nod before I get out of here, because this is a long video, I apologize, but a lot has happened. The other thing that happened to me when I got home was I was graced finally with my pre-ordered copy of Kat Valor's Revenge Arc. Now, if you don't know, Kat is my co-host on Video Game Adaptations. We are friends. We are writing partners. I think very highly of Kat as a human being. I think very highly of her writing. Kat, to me, is one of the most unique voices in indie horror. And I do not say that just because we're friends. I was used to Kat's writing, I think, a little bit before. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe we were friends first. But either way, the way that her brain works to tell stories is unlike anything I have ever seen. And so I'm not going to give too much away with this. I'm going to read the back really quick. This just came out. All the books and stuff I'll put links for, as well as the socials for the authors, because I'm a big supporter of indie horror. Riley Langdon has never shied from extreme horror, especially not in her deep web revenge comic, Red. But now that a cult fandom has put her on a pedestal, she doesn't know how to respond to a mysterious death that too much resembles pages she wrote. As she tries to pick up the pieces of the life she's made for herself, the fandom turns against itself, and an obsessed fan attempts to make the deep web what he hoped it would be. Told in blog posts, chat logs, emails, and more, Revenge Arc blends horror and mystery for an unforgettable experience. Indeed. I have not been able to jump too far into this because I am going to try to finish my Faye book first because I'm already reading too many things as it is. But I'm such a big supporter of Kat's in general. She has a story that is such a unique story in my bathroom anthology, That Old House, The Bathroom, which Ingram is still dicking around and I still don't have paperbacks for, but you can get the ebook for. I'll try to remember to put the link for that. But anyway, so this is, and I'm just going to give you some page flips because I think one of the things to keep in mind is that this is so creative. This is so creative. This is very like found footage, deep web, chat-based storytelling. And I am what's the word? Mystified by it. But look at some of this. I don't want to give too much away, but it's got like chat things. I mean, the formatting on this, I have no words. Like there's emails. I was trying to find there's some that have like little chat things. Yeah, I mean, you guys get this fucking book. I haven't even finished it, and I know I'm gonna love it, and I know that everyone needs to read it. Kat is an author to pay attention to. She's phenomenal, so creative, so creative. Anyway, so I got home to this, and I was really excited about it, and because I got a pre-ordered one, I did get a signed one, and it's going to be a very prized possession. All my friends that I have that sign books. But I mean, you guys, this is phenomenal. I cannot fucking wait to jump into this. So anyway, I just wanted to give that a shout as well. So anyway, that's all I have for this one. My long-winded explanation of all the shit going on with me medically. And yeah, that's all I have. I do have videos scheduled through September. I should still be okay to do our, Steve and I are going to do a September live. So we should still be good to do that. I don't, pending surgery. And if it is cancerous and I have to do chemo and it makes me feel like shit, I'm hoping content can continue, but you know, I think you know this, and the people who support me will know that I'm going to take my health very serious. So if it has to come first, it has to come first, and it should come first. And I'm going to end on this note. I got an outpour of love and support, comments, retweets, DMs on both Instagram and Twitter, text messages. For those of you who reached out, I cannot express with words how much that meant to me. It made me feel really good to have the support of the community that I consider a family community for me. For every comment, every people I don't even really know were sending me goodness, and I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who did that. It really helped lift my spirits in some moments when I was starting to lose the happy feelings. Thank you again so much for the love and for the support. It means the absolute world to me. So that's my hour-long video about my medical bullshit and my experience in the emergency room turned hospital. I was there from Friday 8 a.m. until last night at 6 p.m. Which was Tuesday. So been a long few days. I've returned to work tomorrow because I have no choice. So I'm going to take today. I'm going to edit this and get it posted. I'm going to chill, be careful with my back. And then as soon as the 24-hour mark hits, I'm going to take the best shower of my life. So thank you guys again so much for listening to this long ass drawn out thing. Check out the books that I recommended by the indie authors. Sincerely, you won't regret either one. They're phenomenal. I haven't even read Cats, but I don't have to. It's going to be great. And I know that you'll enjoy those beneath because it's fantastic. If you like fantasy horror type things, that's brilliant. Anyway, that's all I have for this one. So thank you guys so much again for all the love and support and messages and comments. I have no words. I even had people asking about helping crowdfund to raise money for help. And I genuinely have no words. I'm so humble, and I love you guys so much, and it means so much to me. So before I start crying again, I'm going to go. I hope you guys are having a really great week. Enjoy your weekend coming up, and I will see you in the next one.